I think we hit about 4 o'clock, so we'll get started. Let people drift in while we start. There's only one mic. We're going to leave it here. Hopefully fix this up. I like doing these Kelly presentations and stuff because I feel like I get a moment to teach. So we're going to start with that. My name is Chris Bombardo. I'm at the University of Tennessee now. I've been there for about just over a year and a half.
I'm Jamie Wilson. I've also at UT. I've been here about 8 months, so I'm still the new guy.
So now we taught everybody. Hopefully you learned something new, and we're done with the teaching part of this, and we're going to just have fun. If you already knew that stuff, we were both born in Michigan, so that should cover everybody. So you learned your factor today.
What Chris left out is he went to Michigan State, so it's not as cool as University of Michigan. Sorry.
So.
Also, if you have questions during the presentation, go ahead and interrupt us and ask. We like the open format, so feel free to interrupt and ask questions.
So what this is it's what we're doing. It's fun things that, one, we don't have the big budget like some schools, like the school we have. So we kind of have to be innovative a little bit more than what some other schools are. And we like doing it. And we're going to talk about that. And the first thing is, just so we don't get questions, 2 options. You can buy, we could go buy it, but we don't have the budget. And I want to get this out of the way because I know we get questions, why don't you just go buy this software? Or you can build it, and that's what we choose to do. And I think every situation is different. We happen to have the skill set, and we have the pieces in place that we can build it cost effective and make sure it lasts for a period of time.
Does anybody recognize the photo? Any silicon, or not, that's betas. Nobody's seen betas.
It was that good.
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon.
So why do we build? One, it's cost effective for us. It saves us a lot of money. We'll talk about that in one of our projects.
Customization. Who would not want the cool Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse, make your breakfast for you, really cool contraption? We can customize to what we actually need rather than adapting our needs to what we can pull off a shelf and working within the limitations of that. We can iterate faster. We can work in features and roll them out a lot faster than we could with an off-the-shelf product.
And finally, it's fun. We love doing it. It makes our day. It's the reason we like going into work.
We get paid to play, and we like that. We get to experiment. We get to prototype. Things work out. We come up with really cool ideas. Everybody is pretty happy. We're happy. Very happy about it.
When we work on these, we work as a team. We all sit down, everybody in the IT department, and collaborate the project from how we're going to do it to where we're going to build it and everything. We hope to make it a group project. We always try to keep one project that we're doing that's kind of different than our everyday law school. That way, when we come in, if you need a break, you can work on something else. You're still working, but it's not everyday law school, fix a computer, talk to a faculty. So we keep on trying to do new things, and I think it makes it work fun. The project we're going to talk about, the first project is our study rooms. When I started at UT just over a year and a half ago, their study rooms had nothing, and they talked about trying to make them into a smart study room or technology in a study room. So first thing we did was the easy thing, we put TVs in all of them, and then called them collaboration rooms. What they were really being used for a lot was a negotiations class. So there was negotiations, 2 students had to go, 2 or more students went into the room, they took a camera with them, they were pointing at themselves, record it, and then they would take the camera back, had trouble transferring the media to faculty, different faculty had different things, and it was a mess. So we worked with negotiations and said, okay, we want to add video recording to this room. And one of the things I thought about initially was a couple years ago, Rutgers made their presentation of their video recording system. Ours is different. We had certain requirements. We don't check out our study rooms. We didn't know who was in the study room, so who were we going to deliver the video to? We wanted to make sure it was a law student. We didn't want anybody just recording videos. And we wanted to tie it into a system that we already had. We didn't want to add this completely separate system and have a new login and everything else. So we kind of set those guidelines. We get together and started pitching ideas to each other. And what we present here is kind of what we came up with now. As we go forward, we'll look at it. First thing I'm going to cover is the hardware stuff. So first, obviously, we start out with a camera. The camera was the first thing. We wanted IP camera to do voice and video over a single line, make it easy. And one of the big requirements we had for this system is we did not want to have to run power anywhere. Power is expensive for us to run. It takes a long time. So anything that we did, it had to run over PoE, because we have PoE switches. We wanted to be able to just plug in a cable and it'd be powered up. So next thing we had to do is in the room is identify the student. So all students have an ID card, so we're like, we'll have them scan. That's a unique identifier. So any student in there, we can have them scan. But we needed something to communicate when that scan was. So next thing we said is we can use an Arduino board. Arduino boards are just these nice little processors that have inputs and outputs. They have a little web server on them. They're like $28. The one you see here is slightly different than the one we used. We bought a PoE one, which is this one. And that way we could actually run power over Ethernet to power this. We didn't have to have power anywhere around it. We just needed our single cable. Now we need a display to show a student, yeah, to activate it or something like that. Arduino don't do displays. That's one of the things about them. They don't have a video card. They don't have a video out. So what you see here is called a 4D touchscreen display. It's called a display, but what you actually do when you write this is you put on the SD card objects. And you place objects on the screen. And the Arduino board, based on event, can tell an object to show or to do something in the background. So you don't play video on this or take a movie or anything like that. What you really do is show and hide objects. And a push button on an object can fire an event by the coordinates of the finger on that button. So we did that. And the last thing is our connectors. We used our breakout boards. We actually bought the cheap ones and soldered them ourselves. One of our techs loves to solder. That was one of his projects. So he soldered all these in a day. That's what he did. He loved coming to work that day. He loved soldering. So the last thing was, you don't go into a store and buy a case for this. So we went around and finally decided, we would build our own case. So we used Google SketchUp, and we took and designed a case around the dimensions and stuff like that of our actual boards and our breakout boards and our screens, and we printed our cases with a 3D printer. I actually have one, so I just brought it in. You add a little bit of soldering.
This is our secret ingredient behind everything we do.
And then you come up with our final project. So this is our camera control systems.
It's bigger on the inside. For those who got the TARDIS there.
These are just our little boards. And all they do is the controller that talks to the server back and forth. They're pretty simple. All they are is an Arduino board that has a serial port, a PS2 port, and a power port. And then we designed our cases so we could put them on the wall. They don't look the prettiest. We need to get a better color or something. These are scanners and our touchscreens. But we designed a little case that they all screw on to. And this way we could just put these up on our wall. And when the student comes in, all he does is scan his ID. It activates that little screen. If the database says it's an actual student at the law school, it activates the screen. They can add minutes, 10 minutes at a time, and hit start. When they hit start, the Arduino board tells the server and the camera to start, and the time counts down. At any time, they can hit the 10-minute and add more minutes to add minutes if they were going to go longer, or they can hit stop, and it'll stop the recording. If the time runs out, then it shuts off. We also, on the back end of the server checks every so often to make sure it's still talking to it and to make sure it's recording or sending the stop signal. If it never gets the stop signal and the last time recorded has expired, the server will shut down the camera. And that's just to make sure we don't get this long, drawn-out 4-hour video because of some communication issue. Our final thing that we're putting in the rooms that we need to record video and we're worried about it is these cameras have a nice detection system. They can detect if they lost the network. And the worst thing to us is if we lose the network, our video is not getting recorded. So what we've done is we're putting SD cards in certain ones and put network detection on it. If it loses the network, it automatically records to the SD card on the camera. There's a couple lines in the camera software. So that's nice with the hardware, but the software is the next part.
As Chris mentioned, was there a question? Google SketchUp is what we used for the 3D printing to design that. There's actually 2 versions, the professional version and then the free version. The free version was perfectly acceptable for what we needed. We're using FFmpeg. The camera actually sends the video in, it streams it in H.264, so really all we had to do is capture it and put it into an MP4 file. The good thing about that is we can push it right to the students almost immediately when the video ends. Within several minutes, they get an email saying your video is available. Go to this website in the portal. They log in. They have access to manage it. And we'll show you the interface here in a moment. Everything in the back end of the portal is C#, ASP, Microsoft-based. We're using JavaScript and jQuery. Perhaps the most interesting thing that we've done so far is we're using closed captioning in a way that probably wasn't designed to be used. And that technology comes from the HTML5. We have a video player through HTML5. It allows us to bring in, we're using the VTT format for closed captioning, and it allows us to basically time sync the comments to the video. So when the video hits a certain point, it'll say, hey, display this comment for this long, and then stop displaying it there. And we're using the closed captioning system for that. And it's just a text file in a specific format. In the future, we're probably going to move strictly to database at more real time, but we'll talk about that in a moment.
Let me see if I can switch out of this and show you. So this is our new portal prototype.
That's not good.
Oh, it didn't come up. Never mind, it's not. That's our PowerPoint slide. It's up on my screen, though. So we're just showing half, where you don't see the whole. Get you excited, but not quite all the way.
We like to build up the suspense a little bit.
Okay. So this is our new prototype for the portal. I know everybody hates Windows 8, but I like the theory of the menu, actually. The theory of the menu is you see everything you need in one click. You don't have to click Start. You don't have to click All Programs. You don't have to click. Now, did they implement it wrong? Probably. But the theory behind it is actually great, and that's what we're going to move to, is this theory that everything should be able to get in one click. Let me see how.
And this is still very much our prototype test portal entry point.
So in here is our video project. And this is what it looks like when the student logs in. I meant to get permission to show a negotiation video, but I forgot before I left. So what we're going to show is one of our most boring videos we have. But it's just to show what you can do. You can manage the video. And so when that person that scans it, they have permission to the video. It's their video. Now they can go in here and manage their video and share it with anybody in the law school. They can, I don't think we put the new profile on this. Let's bring it up anyways. Maybe. I might have to go to the old one. This is our old site. Oh no, we already got it in here. So manage might not pop up. So this is our prototype. Anyways, manage video, that's not the important part. They can manage it, they can share it, they can share comments and everything else. But the play video is what we really wanted to show. And we just tested this. Oh, it helps if I actually select one. So this is our video play system. I hope the network connection's fast enough. It usually pops right up inside. Okay, so on the right side, you can see all the comments. These all comments started at 0, that's why they popped up right away. But as the time plays...
It's a very captivating video, by the way.
The video's not running that fast. It's really slow. We got 3 seconds so far. Okay, we just jumped ahead. As the time plays, the comments that are supposed to show during that time show. On a better network connection, this runs a little bit better. You can click and see all comments. These were all comments made at the time. And then you want to do the My Comments?
And then we also have the ability to show just your own comments, which allow you to edit them, delete them. You can also lock them down so you have private comments. And this was a request that came from the faculty. They wanted to be able to go through, critique some of these negotiations, but they wanted to make comments that weren't available to the entire student class. And so we have an ability to make private comments, which you can see with the locks on there. And that goes back to one of the great things about being able to customize, is that this was something we were able to implement very quickly based on faculty request.
runs really slow when we hit the video. So that's inside. Now I wonder if I can get managed. It's still on the old site, but this is your manage your video. So you can come in and share the video and decide what to share. If you want to share the comments, if you want to share, if you want to allow them to make a comment. If you own the video, you can share it with whatever permissions you had. So it's just a share permission. So that's the video project that we have. And what's next? Well, a couple years ago, I did a presentation here on something I did was called jury sliders. And all it was is, I did these sliders and printed cases for them. You take the slider and it's a 0 at the bottom, 100 at the top. And I can record that number every second for the time of the video. So when a jury's watching an argument or anything like that, they slide it up or down. If they like it, they're up. If they don't, they're down. So I can record that number of all 8 people at one time synced with the video. So this way, when the student comes back and they watch the video, they can see each one of the jurors what they liked at that time. They don't have to rely on verbal comments of the juror trying to remember, at the beginning you did this really well. They can actually see real time of what the jury was thinking when they were making their arguments. We made it also that I have that system and I have the video system. Now we're going to plug them together for this automated system. In the current jury slider system, they can mark, I want to see all males and females line, and it'll mark anybody as a female slider and anybody as a male, and just put 2 lines. So you can see if you lost females or males. So we want to build the ability that in any one of the study rooms or anywhere we have our current video system, we can just plug in this slider unit, or have slider units there, depending on it. To build a slider unit is about $200, and then it's just database. So we could just put them in, and then they could have juries, they can do pitches on their negotiations or whatever. So that's one thing that we're going to do next.
Another request we had from faculty is they want to be able to, as students are watching these videos and getting the reviews, the faculty wanted to be able to insert questions that will pause the video and force the students to answer the question before the video can continue. So we want to be able to sync that up. That's one of the features we're looking at adding. Real-time commenting. Right now, as I said, we're using the closed captioning, which means when you load the page, it downloads all the comments that have been input in the database up until that point. So if another student's watching the video at the same time, those comments aren't yet going to other students watching the video. Adding real time is something we plan to implement so that if I add a comment and Chris is watching the video, it will immediately pop up on his screen. The other thing is we want to take that permissions-based comment and extend that so you can actually specify 1 or more users that the comments are available for. Maybe I have study partners that are in the class and the video is available to everybody in the class, but I only want 5 people to see my comment for one specific comment.
I miss that.
Should I repeat that? That's great. Any questions?
So, and again, these are built out basically working with one negotiations class. So a lot of this is working with one class. It was available to everybody, but we really advertised it to the negotiations class. And this is the feedback that we're receiving for them. And we've seen a lot of, they would leave comments of saying, why did you tell them this fact this early? Or, you should have saved that to the end of the negotiation. Or, why didn't you tell it? So we launched it in January this year, and between January and May, from the negotiations class primarily, we had 150 videos recorded in that period of time. That didn't count any of our practice videos or anything like that. We had about 300 overall, but 150 were contributed directly to the students for that period, 1 semester period. Our issue is we have 5 cameras total, 5 rooms implemented like this. One of them was reserved for court, so negotiations could only use 4 of them. And students complained that they were all checked out, they couldn't get into them. We do have a checkout system, but you write your name on a piece of paper. So we couldn't tie into that really, it's hard to read that. So they complained that they needed more rooms, so we were approved and we're going to extend this to all our study rooms, and we'll have 15 active study rooms that they can walk in, scan their ID, and record the session. The picture back a little bit, I don't know if you noticed on the camera there was a little green light. We had to give them notification of when it was recording, both for they know they're recording it and for they know when they're not being recorded. They want that feeling of saying, hey, the green light's not on, I'm not being recorded. So I forgot to show that. So any questions about this system? It's a quiet group. So we'll move on.
So digital signage is another big issue right now, or big thing that we're working on. Right now we have 5 four largest screens throughout the law school, and they look pretty much like this. We're going to be redoing those. But we're taking that idea and we're expanding it more to the classroom level, where we're going to have smaller, they're about 10 inches on each classroom. And we're going to be able to display schedules, upcoming events, various notifications, and we'll get more into how those are going to work in a moment.
So the business school got screens outside their classrooms. They got a grant, they got screens. And the law school said, we need screens too. So they came to us and said, how much can we do screens for? We started looking around, and there's some products out there, but everything was expensive. The cheapest we found was about $700 per screen to buy the screen and everything. And we just didn't have that much to spend on it. So we wanted to come up, again, trying with a solution that was much cheaper and worked better for us, and made it, one of our big things is integration into systems that we already had. So again, we didn't want to add a system that you had to log into, create something different, or do anything different. We wanted to pull from the data that we already have there and just integrate these automatically. So we had a little thing with the IT group, and we started talking about it, going over, and Arduino boards are kind of out because they don't have displays. So we came up with our hardware list for this one. We started out with a Raspberry Pi. We jumped to that because it has video out. It's one of the few boards that actually has all integrated video out. So the Raspberry Pi was our first option. We started out with that. And remember, our big thing is we do not want to have to run power to these. So everything we do, we want to do with a single line PoE. And that was with our displays too. So I think ViewSonic was the only one that I really found that would run off a single Cat5 cable with power and everything. Our screen was the hardest thing to find because we needed something that would run on low voltage before we could pass that across the wire. We ended up finding these little screens. They're really thin, really nice. They're 10-inch, 10.1 inch, and that's all they are. They have a little control board with them, and they run on 5 volts. So we can divide that 5 volts off and power these screens up. That's a control board. So we needed something to power them, split the Ethernet, so we got a PoE splitter. All this does is take power over Ethernet, split it out to the little cable, and we took that cable and modified it a little bit. This is our prototype one. It's not the prettiest, but what this one did is allowed us to power both the Raspberry Pi on a single cable and the monitor from that power splitter off of Cat5. So now we just have to run a single Cat5. We don't have to get the university involved to run us power or run power on this building. And then, in the meantime, I was looking at this, iBeacon started to come out. So we kind of explored what would we have to do to add iBeacon to these, at least to get it into things. And all you need on a Raspberry Pi to add iBeacon is a small Bluetooth 4.0.
We pay about $9 each for these.
So with that little dongle, you can add iBeacon to these. Now what's iBeacon? Apple talks about it all the time. iBeacon is just a one-way signal that this voice sends out, and it'll talk to an app on the phone. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the software. Finally, again, we couldn't go in and buy a case or anything like that. So we found bookshelves. Now, collections are shrinking a little bit in the libraries. So, don't hit me. So, the library had a bunch of these bookshelves that they were going to get rid of. They were in storage, and they've been storing them over time. So we actually took the front off these, each one of them, because they were solid wood, and we cut them and made a little triangle, and we can put our screens right inside of these. Made a little board. I didn't bring one. I should have brought one of those. I think we have some pictures. So we did a little cutting.
Not TSA approved.
Otherwise, we would have brought it. And we came up with our little digital display boards. On the left was our prototype one, this one that's sitting here except for the box. Kind of everything jammed in there. We've gotten shorter network cables and shorter HDMI cables, but that's the power controller, the Raspberry Pi, and the screen control all in there. All we have to do is plug one Ethernet cable in there. We have power and we have data coming over one little line. The power controllers are just these. We'd like to find smaller ones, but we busted open the ones they give you in the little kits. And then the controller you're seeing, and then we just use a standard Raspberry Pi with the USB in there, or the Bluetooth in there to control the screens. I think the coolest thing about it is using the library shelves, it matches the wood throughout the law school. So it looks like they were always there, except for they're bright and they shine at you. We attract the students to them. Kind of like so
these are two of our prototype screens. The top one is just a typical class schedule, gives a little description of the particular class that's in session or about to start. The second would be an example if we had a special speaker, in this case, Pied Piper. What you guys think about that 5.8 in the Weissman score? Anybody watch Silicon Valley? All right, so we got a reference. And then also we're looking at if the class is canceled, we'd be able to put that up on the board. This class is canceled, it's moved to this location. Or if we had an emergency, a tornado is barreling down on the university, we could have every classroom screen throughout the whole school pop up and say, run for it, or something like that.
So again, the software that we used?
Backend, we're still using IS, ASP, C#. The Raspberry Pi is just using the standard Raspbian OS. We're using Blues to control the Bluetooth in it, which would allow us to get into the iBeacon stuff. HTML5 for the interface. JavaScript, jQuery, we're going to use that a little bit more to do transitions, to time things, to make the transitions between different, if we want to do more than one display for a particular classroom at a time. The iBeacon, as Chris was saying, it's a one-way connection. All it does is it basically sits in a location, beams out a signal. You have to have an app that reads it. It says, hey, I have an ID here. I'm within this range of this particular thing, this beacon. And the thing about it is it uses low power Bluetooth, which is going to be available in all the phones. I think Windows is the only lagging one currently, and that should be like about August they should support that. So even though it's called iBeacon, it's not just Apple, even though Apple is pushing it. But what it would allow us to do is do geolocation throughout the school itself. It's going to be more specific than GPS inside of a building. So we can know if a student is standing outside of a specific classroom, we can push data to their phone and say, hey, this class is canceled. So that's another option.
Or do you want the iCalendar for this class for this week?
Exactly.
So I was hoping to have the program, at least a little iBeacon program written this week, but I didn't get it done. We're still debating what we're going to write it in. So Swift just came out for Apple. That's an option. The problem with using Swift is we have to write it for Apple with Swift. We have to write it with Java for Android, and then we have to write it with C# or whatever for the Windows Phone. And with a lot of developers, that's not bad. But basically, it's us that do all the developing. So we write all this and everything else, program all the Arduino boards, the Phidgets, everything else. So recently, let's see if I can do this again. Let's see. Recently, actually, we got the same display. And I'm still figuring out how to pronounce this. Nope. Xamarin, I believe, if I'm wrong, correct me. Came out. It is, you can write a C# app, which I like C#, that's why it attracted me to it. And then put the different user interfaces on it and publish it to all three phones at once. So when you write the back end of it, it's all the same. And then you just tie it to each interface, and in the code you just say, if iPhone, if iPad, if each one of them, if Android, use this user interface. So like if you're programming, the iPhone's only unique one, they actually have to have a map next to you, and it'll actually pull the Xcode designer in the, what's the visual designer for Xcode? Name of it, anybody know offhand? Anyways, it'll pull that in for you can actually design in what elements you want to talk to and stuff. But again, the benefit for us, if we end up using this, is we can write one background for all three phones and publish them pretty quick. I don't know if this is the answer. We're still playing with this to check it out. But it's something that we like it because we can write it once, and that's the goal, is to write it once, update one code, and not have to develop for each of the unique phones. So if anybody has input on that, we'll have to hear it. What was that? Really quick, the iBeacon, if you're curious about how you get the Bluetooth to work for iBeacon, it is really easy. Just go to PiBeacon, and they have step-by-step instructions. It is actually just one command to put it down, and you make a unique ID. And then you can get this nice little fun app on your iPhone that's iBeacon Tester and make sure it works. You can walk and tell you how far you are and everything. This takes 5 minutes to do on a Raspberry Pi to turn iBeacon on. It is that easy to actually turn iBeacon. And just give it a unique ID, that way you know which one you're talking to. So, very simple, very easy. It seems a lot more complicated than it really is. If you take it step by step, it's really easy. Want to add anything to that.
We decided, even though we're looking at iBeacon for the future, we decided to go ahead and put them in the boards now. The cost, like I said, it's about $9 per Bluetooth. We went ahead and put them in. It's a lot easier than going back and pulling these things off the walls and putting them in later. So they're all going to be ready to broadcast. And we can tap into them remotely, just use SSH to go right into each of those individual boards throughout the law school, so we don't have to go to every specific one to do this.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
So what's next? What we're looking at, more mobility for our products, the portal. More and more students are relying on mobile phones. They're using tablets. We want them to be able to sit in the classroom, walk down the hall, be able to pull the information they need to be able to do pretty much anything they need to do with the portal, whether it's a calendar or reserving something, a study room or something like that. We also want to integrate as much as possible. We're looking at unified calendaring. We're looking at bringing all of our digital signage or information boards all under one central control so we can update things from one point and push it out everywhere. So those are kind of where we're heading.
Let me try this again. So when we're talking unification and trying to get everything together, integration, one of the neatest things I think we're doing right now is what we're testing right now is our notification center on the left of the screen. And what we hope to do is give each department a color. And what will happen is they'll have a little login portal that they can give a notification to a set of students, a student, all students. They go in, they log in, type up their little message, and hit send, and their color icon will pop up there. If it's multiple, we're going to take the iPhone badge and put a little badge up there that you got 2 notifications or 2 messages. All our standards, when they have exams, we can pull that schedule and we pop them up, put their exam schedule there, let them know. So the goal is to make it forward. This will be the one center that they come to do anything. If you want any information, and not just for students. We're hoping to do this for faculty and staff. If you need a form from the business office, right now we have to go to this website or that website or this website. We're trying to make one place that we consolidate it. We're not going to host that form, but what we're going to do is give you all the links so you can go right to it. So really, our consolidation, our integration of everything is hopefully going to be this one portal system and get everybody liking Windows 8 at the same time, at least the theory of Windows 8. If we do that, then we'll be really, really happy.
And I forgot to mention earlier, I did mention that we're trying to make everything responsive. We're using Twitter Bootstrap as our framework for that. It's easier to use something that tens of thousands or more sites are already using and developing and making better. So we're building off that framework to make everything so this would look great on a mobile device.
Yeah, this is all Twitter Bootstrap now. And they all are, let's see if I can do it, stackable, for each person can put them in whatever order they want, and remember that individual setting. And then the last thing we're working on is making a favorites. So the second column, right after notifications, will be your favorites, the apps that you use the most. And then as more departments buy in, we get them, business office and stuff, they'll just scroll over and they can use, it'll keep on going left and right on the little portal system.
And the idea is to make it a swipe. Right now we just have the scroll bar at the bottom, but that's not really the idea behind it. We want to, for mobile devices and tablets, it'll just go over the flick your finger across it and it'll move you along.
So where do you get some of this stuff? This is one thing we was going to show because this is where we bought it. I know I go a lot of places and you see stuff that's really neat, but then you start looking for it and where do you get it? So Amazon we order a lot of stuff on. SparkFun is one of my favorite stores there are. It just has anything, little electronic gadget, connectors, Galileo boards, whatever you want, they have it there. And you buy, they're reasonably priced. Phidgets are a lot like our Arduino boards, only they have to tie back to a system. So they have a processor, but they need to talk to something. So the Phidget boards I use for the sliders and stuff because it records all that on a server. So there's a program that interprets this on the computer. So they're just a little bit different. They have a different function, but they're really fast at getting them signals. So I can grab them signals off 8 of them and send them to a database within hundredths of a second to record them all, compared to something like a Arduino that's in a loop and a little bit slower. So all these little things, they have little benefits and stuff to them. Seed Studio is where we buy our screens. These were hard to find. They're always out of stock. Ever since the Raspberry Pis come out, because they're really good displays for Raspberry Pi. They have HDMI input, VGA, and composite. So you just plug that in there, and you can install any of those and a little switcher between them and pick what kind of input you want. So they're really nice, and these go for about $100. That's it for a screen. So we said it was cheap, and we said we're trying to be cost effective. So our study rooms, if we don't count on our camera, because the camera is the most expensive thing, one study room costs us $150 put together. So that's printed and everything. We can display, put a system in there for $150. When we looked at this, we have media site. We have 2 rooms on media site. We have a couple rooms on 323 in the classrooms and stuff. So we brought in and we talked to these companies and what their pricing would be if we want to do this many study rooms. What is South Carolina's? What do you guys use? Your pop? What is it called? The video. Benopno. Yeah. We looked at them. After we started looking at all these prices, there wasn't one that we found that was under $1,000 a room, pretty much, that we could put in there, mount, and everything. Our current cameras, we did pay about $900 for, but they're 1080p. That's why they were so much. And unfortunately, we locked them at 720p right now because that was as much quality as we needed, and it saves a ton of space on the server. So,
plus, as Tom pointed out, we could actually flip it up to 1080p immediately and look like geniuses.
So when we talk about being able to do a room for $150, they were excited. They gave us more money, and for us, it's very cost effective. Because again, it's because we had the skills there to do it. We had the skill level. We had the right people in place. The screens that we're putting up, the cheapest one I think we said was a ViewSonic, which was a screen that was PoE. The only one I could find that was just PoE. I think Tom found other ones at a display convention. But the one we found online is about $700 per screen. When we build those, we're under $180. So it's $180 right in that range for us to build per screen, running off the server we already have putting out. So we can put in almost 6 screens at the price of buying one of those. And we only have 12 classrooms, so we're substantially cheaper than it was. When we went and talked to the business school, their screens were $2,500 each. You can schedule in class and stuff. We asked them how often the scheduling was used. It wasn't hardly ever. So ours are not touch screens. They're just a display to put out, and eventually they'll have iBeacon so you can download it. Do we have questions?
How many hours did it take to build the whole system?
The video system we started in December. So I started in October, and then December we started the video system talking to them. And no, we started that one in October. It was the following year. So I started that in October, and we launched it in January. There are some days we worked on it constantly. I didn't record my hours. I don't practice as an attorney. So, but it just the video system was a couple months to do it all, put it all together and everything else. But that's with doing everything else. You know, some days we could work on it, just code on it. Some days we didn't. Some days we wrote it and then realized that's not going to work and tear it all down and try to do it again. So, and it's constantly changing. You know, the portal that you've seen, the orange bar, we did that last year. Now this year we're doing it Windows 8. That's something, because we can do it ourselves, we can change it very quick, test it, see if we like it, get some feedback from students and faculty, and move on.
Any support issues with it, like the students using it?
No, so we're based out of the library, and the circulation desk is trained about if they have a problem, they reset it, they unplug it and plug it in. Well, we haven't had too many calls with that. Besides that, everything's worked so far, thank you. So hopefully it stays that way. We've been through one semester, we've only had 4 cameras. Next semester we'll have 15, so we're going to see how much of a change it does and how much more this stays. It's a learning experience. So we'll see, I guess we'll say. We haven't. What other questions?
So what's the kind of long-term support plan for this, or is this just a temporary thing? Because let's say in a year or two, you guys move on somewhere else. Now, you have all these systems in place, and you guys just homebrew system. So how does that work with the people remaining to keep this going?
So if you have a commercial system, do you have to train somebody on that when you buy it? To support it? Usually they'll provide the current support. I mean, it's the same thing. This isn't anything that's really unique. It's working with 3 or 4 pieces of hardware, they're coding, so they would hire somebody that worked in that area when they look for that person, and then they would train them. We document our code as much as we can, but most of it's not that hard. To me, when you take a task, if you can break it down, one thing, what do we need? Okay, we need a camera. Break it down. Coding is the same way. So if you look at any way codes, if they break it down, first thing we need to do is we need to communicate. So you write the communication section. But once you break stuff down, it's easy enough that if you have somebody with basic knowledge of that, they usually can come in and pick it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, we're using pretty standard tools. We try to stick to a pretty standard, not get anything too, I mean, we're not trying to risk our jobs here by making it too standard. No, that's not. No, we're sticking to HTML5, C#, very common tools. So hopefully, hopefully Chris doesn't get hit by a bus, but yes.
It's interesting because it's very unconventional. I mean, most places aren't writing their own hardware and software.
And then the other thing I always look at is, yeah, we put it in, what if they did replace it in 3 years? Or 3, 4 years, whatever. So then 4 years though, we saved licensing fees, they didn't have to pay for the equipment. 4 years, add up how much money we saved. Now they can still buy that product in the next 4 years if they need to. Because if they were going to buy it then, they could buy it now. We just saved that much more money over that period of time. So if somebody came in and it didn't work for them, they want to wipe it out, they can go back to when, we didn't have the money then, maybe they have the money now to put it in there. So, but each year, license agreement, you got to pay maintenance fees and all that. We don't have any of that.
Right.
If you add up all those licensing fees and the extra money they bought to pay that system, the hardware, we're way under what they are over a period of time. If you say that, you can be way ahead.
I just want to add to your comment, because I've had this discussion recently as well, that one of the biggest cost components that Chris talked about was the camera in each room. And so most of the Echo 360 Media Center and everyone else now support IP cameras as an input ingestion. So you need a camera anyway if you're going to go with a commercial system. So I think it puts that in perspective.
Yeah, so we spent $150 over a 3-year period on these rooms. How much would you spend with the system? So.
For the back-end storage, you storing it on a NAS?
Right now, we're just storing it on a standard Dell server with 6 terabytes. And we have a secondary one that we're testing on. How do we want to store it? Is it going to be stored for speed? If we're going to store it for backup? So we're still doing a lot of testing because we play with 4 cameras. We don't know what it's going to do 15 cameras. So we'll have around 12 terabytes that we can kind of play with. But again, it's kind of new to us, so we're still developing how we want to store it. How long do we need to keep these videos? Negotiations, they tell us 2 semesters. The semester they do it, the semester after, so we can wipe those ones out. We have some, and that was something we built in, is a delete date. So every video, they can put in a delete date. By default, we did 1 year, and if they want to put a request to extend it beyond that, then they can do that. They can mark a box and it sends us a thing that says, I need this forever or whatever. So right now we're going to have a lot of turnover videos, everything in negotiations will be deleted next year, because we don't need to save them once their grades are finalized. What other questions?
Drilling down on the cost again, I mean, you can't ignore the cost of your labor, right? And
Sure.
It sounds like you're almost full-time at this project.
Oh, I wasn't almost full-time. I mean, this is, I still do everything else. I mean, I still have a normal day. We still have to support everything. It's nowhere near full-time on just this project. So, but this is what I was hired for. I mean, if you want to save money, you buy the people that can save you money, and that's what they were looking for.
Right.
So, there's a lot of other stuff that we did. In the first year there, we redone the way we deploy PCs. We introduced a lot new, they didn't support Macs before I came. We now have a Mac program. So in a year and a half, we made substantial changes in the IT department that are working out well now. So I still did everything day to day. This was just added in there. So I don't sleep much either. So
the cost to you, it's not to the institution.
So what other questions we have?
Another question.
Sure.
You mentioned other companies that offer this service for a high cost. Have you ever thought of packing it up and offering it to other law schools?
I hate sales. No. In fact, if you email me, you want the code, I'll give it to you. We do it because we like to do it. We don't want to be marketing. I run a separate company, I do that, that's that. But this stuff here, we do it for fun. We do it for the school. And we'll collaborate with other schools. We're more than happy to do that. My SketchUp files, whatever, just send us an email. We'll work with it.
Appreciate that.
So we do this for UT, and it helps get UT's name out there. So you might get a UT sticker on it, though.
Actually, if anybody wants to implement this, let us know, because we can learn from you just as much as you can learn from us. We're always looking for ways to improve it.
And we talked about, Ben Chapman keeps a great blog up about all the stuff he's doing, about putting this up and putting a lot of stuff with that. If you guys are interested, let us know, and Jamie will do it. So what else do we have? We went a lot quicker than we thought we would. So
You capture the native format that you play back, so I mean, there's no transcoding or anything else?
no, and that's why we can send an email as soon as it's done to there's no wait time. Now, there's an exception to that. So we didn't have enough room, so a lot of students still had to check out cameras. So on the fly, we wrote this little thing that they could log into the system, certain students that would give permission, and upload a video into it, and then it would transcode and put in MD4. And that way they could still use it. Because they liked it, and they wanted to comment, and the commenting worked out well for them. So we had to come up with a quick way of how do we get the videos that are off these cameras with hard drives and stuff like that. So we do have to transcode any video that comes in from another source.
But not from your system?
But not from our system, yes. And we just use FFmpeg for that too, so it works out pretty well. It just has that delay in there. So, what else? Any other questions?
The cameras are wall mounted, are they stationary, or are they movable at all?
They are wall mounted, but the access cameras have little joints, you can move them around. We try to lock them down because the students move them around, but our goal is not to have them move. We got pretty good shots. We don't have really big study rooms. We did learn one lesson. So we have a really small study room, and we mounted it pretty high, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. It was a bad move for girls with low-cut dresses. So we took that camera and moved it back down and gave a little bit of a warning to all students. So just as a heads up, do not mount your camera high and point it down too much in small rooms. I don't think we're going to do any more small rooms. We learned that lesson very quickly.
Do you have any issues with sound and video syncing?
No, it's worked really well with the access cameras. So we haven't had any issues with that anybody's reported or anything. And when we started, we did 1080p, and it was synced up with that, great. But then we looked, and we had 2 gig files for a 30-minute recording. We're like, this isn't good. So we dropped it down, and that 2 gig file dropped down to about 300 megabytes for a half an hour, somewhere there. So it's substantially different. But so far, they've all worked great with sound and everything else.
The interface side, I saw that you put a course description and all that stuff.
Yep.
Who's entering that information so that it could be displayed?
So there's a couple places we pull from, depending on the course and stuff. It's really weird. So some of this stuff, our records office puts up for any class that is not a required first year class. So anything that's not a required first year class, we pull it from our main database at the law school that's running our website. All our first year required classes is actually pulled from the university's course catalog. So we pull from 2 different places. I'm hoping that we can synchronize that into one location and not have 2 different locations. I'm hoping that we can hold a copy of that. But our thing is, we never want to duplicate data. So I'd rather have it in one place, and there's this debate, can we make the university pull from our website or feed it to them there, send in updates from there? Or should we hold it all there and just pull from now? The worst thing to me is duplicating data because they're going to get out of sync. So we are starting to do a new website right now, our external website, and our goal is to integrate that with the portal. So we have some duplicate data now with that, and we hope to get rid of that where there's one place for all the data. Like our user profiles are all in both right now. We want to tie that in.
It goes back to our integration. We want one place where people can go to input information to as much as we can make that happen, and then one place they can go to get information. But once the information is in that one place, it can be spread out to wherever we need it to go, whether it's an information board, mobile phone, the video description, the classroom descriptions, whatever. That's the plan. That's the idea. That's the big goal.
You can pick and choose which monitor is being displayed on.
Yeah, each one's a unique ID, and we can pick based on the events, based on codes and stuff like that. And one of our things is our university provides a lot of good data, like emergency warnings and stuff like that. They currently don't have an RSS feed, but we're kind of starting to talk to them to try to give them something that, you know, we can read the RSS feed and try to, instead of trying to rip their web page. They do some traffic updates, building updates and stuff, and we'd like to pull all that into one location and give a summary of it and then have them click to go to that page. That's kind of our, give them a little dessert because they need something for them to do it. So our exchanges will drive traffic to your page if you give us a summary in RSS feed. So it's always a negotiation.
The way our classroom boards are actually working, it's basically a Chrome browser, and it's pulling off the unique URL that we have for that specific board. So on the back end, we can actually say, board 25, this is what we're going to display for that one, and that's what that screen's loading. So we would be able to push out specific information for any specific board, or a range of boards, or however we want to do that. Did that kind of answer your question? Okay.
What else we have? Nothing? Well, we're done early. So
Feel free to come up and speak.
Are you clapping because we're done early, or because you... Which one of our large screens in our library, one of our large screens. So they want before we got there, it's touches, laser touches, that tracks touches, that tracks. So we wanted to do it. So on our that's pretty cool. And that's the little Bluetooth thing that we're trying to and that'll give you just put it on Bluetooth. It's been fun. Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised that TSA let me use all that.
I had that all in my backpack.
Like how?
And all the kids got those and I put it in.
I get patted down for my efforts.
So there's the little, this is the little, you can download it, and then you can listen and broadcast and test them. Get them up. When you listen, you put it in your notes, and then you can listen. And it works at clear range. They say far, medium, or close. And you can set the iBeacon application when they get close, ding, and say, I got something for you. And then it goes in the app and go talk to the server, whatever, based on that unique ID on that iBeacon.
Nice.
Complain about privacy, the IP stuff?
No, because it's one-way signal, and you have to run an app. So iBeacon is nothing to exchange data, and you have to actually have the app running in the background, running in the background. And then when iBeacon goes off, they get an analog saying, hey, this app wants to use it, you'll switch to the app, and then it'll ask you your question. You want to.
iOS 8 is becoming more like it's always running. Like if you walk into a Best Buy with iOS 8 on, it'll suggest that you go and open the Best Buy.
So iBeacon is always running on everything, since 7. But the app, each one has a unique ID, and you write your app to listen to your ID.
Yeah, so it's broadcasting a very small stream of data.
Yeah.
It's like like a location ID and a specific beacon ID or something like that.
It's just a beacon ID, the UID for the beacon. So if you want location, you have to triangulate between so many and say they're right here, or they're within this range because they're in this way.
And you guys are working on a mobile app to show the same content as on.
To share the same content, and what the first thing we want to do is when you walk up to it, is say, hey, you use this class, if you want the iCal. So they can grab the iCal for that room. Or what I'd really like to do, but I got to get the professors on board, is say, hey, here's your assignments for this class. So this class is going on, I can identify, it'll say, they should be logged into the app. If that person's in, here was your reading for today, did you read it? So the more we can integrate the parts and just say, we know this student's in the class, we know he's standing outside of the class, now we can tell him, make sure he knows what the assignment is, we can tell him, make sure he knows it.
Next week to unlock the doors.
Looked into that.
August. Yeah, August, I mean, the product is called August. They were the first one to be certified for the Apple HomeKit, and it's going to be a deadbolt box so you can open with your phone and HomeKit.
So I want that for mine.
Yeah,
They've got something you can actually give their break coming up. You can give it to them.
Yeah, that's the August one. So if you have friends coming over, you can put them, they can unlock it one time for a week.
Ideally, we'll be able to do this in their study rooms.
yeah, and that's what we looked at it for. It's, we want the students to be able to sign in the study room on a Saturday, which has to be just a selection of students. And
Then walk up.
yeah,
That's that's ideal. We have other.
That one is one of my favorite boards right now. So that's Intel's first board that is Arduino. Only they run an entire Linux kernel. So you can go in and not only can you do the Arduino program, you can actually make Linux. And unlike Arduino, you can bring this in, so you can plug in to it without having to get a stackable USB. Arduinos are stackable.
I'm not the asker.
What I'll do is stackable firmware. So that one has USB on it. You don't have to program it. It's already built. Plus, the Intel chip is faster than what the Arduino boards are putting out right now. It has a little other options. They have 2 more that are coming out, and they're both going to be wearable. One's the size of an SD card that you can sew on. It has sew things. Now, Arduino has what's called the Lily Pad. That is a closed one. It has 6 inputs on it, inputs, outputs on the outside. The Intel one is really cool that they did. The first one they did, and they launched at CES, was they did a onesie, a little baby onesie, and it snaps on. It's just a little thing that snaps on there, but it has all these sensors. So you can tell when the baby's awake, and sleep, the breathing, the heartbeat, and everything. So if something goes wrong, it will pull up the iPhone and say, hey, check the look. So if we weren't lazy enough as adults already, we can get lazy.
No need for the human interaction of going to check your child's picture. Jimmy's falling over again. You're rolling over.
He's not breathing. So,
And the data.
What's that? For the.
So this is a.
Yeah, actually, he's kind of mastermind that.
You should check that out.
Yeah, so this is a PoE split. So PoE will go in, right there. And out you have your normal network cable, and then you have your power. And you can split 5 or 12 volts.
Yeah, that's what we actually.
What we did is we have this little splitter. It plugs into there, and then this plugs into our screen controller. Right there, that gets power to our screen. And then we cut the wire, split it, and this will go into our Raspberry Pi. And it goes into pins 1 and 3 on the phone.
So we're doing.
And that'll call it Raspberry Pi. So out the data.
Yep,
and then the data goes out there and you run the data. So you got the signal, you split it, and you got your two powers out. And these can kick out enormous, I think it's 48 or 96 volts that these can carry now. So
We got a grant,
thing.
so.
Now, I was talking to somebody, and they said they were going up to 220 volts for super low amperage.
That's why we got these.
I wish I could get into track.
We have the Raspberry Pi.
Give up?
We, our Raspberry.
No,